What's going on, comic fam? It is your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by the creators of the comic series, The Mall. I have Don Handfield and I have James Haick with me today. Thank you guys so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having us, man.
So I know you guys are both super busy people. So I know I was looking up, I always try to prep of, before I get on the interview, like, what do they got going on? What have they done? And, James, I know you have had your hand in a bunch of comics with Long Live Pro Wrestling and The Mall and Solar Flare, all these different ones. And Don, I feel like you have your hand in so many projects out there in Hollywood. I saw you're, with the History Channel show and doing some other Hollywood movies. So thank you guys just for taking some time to hang out and talk about comics, something that we love. So.
No, our pleasure, man. I grew up reading comics, man, and it was a big part of my childhood, and it's a joy for me to be back in the business doing comics myself. So stoked to be here.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to just kind of always start out with asking is, what got you into creating comics?
We'll take that first then? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, man. Sure. For me, I was filming a show called Knightfall that I co-created in Prague. And I was there for 6 months without my family, and we're getting toward the end of the show, and I was wanting to do something else, and I was under an exclusivity contract with that company for TV. So I decided to write a comic book, and the comic book was The Rift, which was just an incredible experience. I mean, it's really kind of pure, like comic creation is. I mean, I've been writing in Hollywood for many years, and it's just so amazing because you have an idea, you tell the artist sends you the pages. There's a very minimal pipeline between you and the finished product, and you're really kind of a part of the entire process. And I just really enjoyed it. It was like amazing. I read comic books as a kid. I never thought I would make one. And that comic ended up selling to Steven Spielberg and Amblin, and they made it as the last episode of Amazing Stories. So it was just a great process all around. And I've definitely loved doing it more and more. So
that's so cool. That's so cool. What about you, James?
Yeah, man, I just kind of my background. Yeah, I started reading comics when I was like 8 years old. And I've been collecting for many, many years. I don't know, it just dawned upon me, like, I've read so many. I was like, you know what? I can't draw at all. I mean, my circles look like squares. So, I don't know, it just popped in my head about 6 years ago, like, hey, why don't you try writing a comic? So I took a whole bunch of courses, read a whole bunch of books. Actually about comic writing, and I gave it a go, and kind of the rest is history. I started with Kickstarter, did Solar Flare, 6 individual campaigns, and then I met Jim Pruitt and Brendan Deneen, who were part of Scout at the time, and had a couple other companies offer me contract for Solar Flare. I got the Warm and Fuzzies from Jim and Brendan, and kind of the rest is history. Now, myself and Don are both partners at Scout. Our company has grown exponentially in the past 2 years. Really, in the past 6 months, it's like surpassed like 3 years worth of growth. It's quite remarkable. But the team that we have together here at Scout, and I don't know, I never pictured myself, and I'm sure Don didn't either, on this side of writing, yes, but to actually help head and helm this comic publishing entertainment company that we have and have so much success in a short amount of time is really just like an absolute dream come true. But it's exciting. It's one of those things where we try to continue to partner with creators and creative teams that, if you win, I win, you win kind of philosophy. But it's been awesome, man. I love comics. I think all of us kind of have to be in this industry, just because it's a tough industry to break into. But once you're into it, it's a very tight-knit community. And I don't know, just a huge fan, and I just love what we're doing.
And prepping for this interview, I got caught up in your guys' comics, but I also know that I've noticed that you guys are involved with Scout from another aspect of it. How did you guys get connected from doing the more managerial and other aspects of like that of Scout?
Well, it kind of all happened organically. What had ended up happening is I became friends with Jim Pruitt and Brendan Deneen, and I started helping out more and more when they needed things in general. And my background is in sales and marketing. Okay. So, which kind of leads me to where I met Don. Jim asked me to come out with them to San Diego Comic-Con to help run pitch meetings, because San Diego and the comic industry is kind of like our Sundance Film Festival. Right. It's where a lot of executives from Hollywood come out and they try to option or pick up properties. So Jim wanted me to run point because, again, I have a lot of experience speaking in front of crowds. So I did. I coincidentally met Don. He was one of the pitch meetings that we have because he runs a production company with Jeremy Renner called Combine. And a 30-minute meeting turned into an hour and a half. Don and I kind of came up organically, this idea that I had that I was going to pitch to Image and Dark Horse called The Mall. And it came up and Don loved it. We decided to work together and kind of the rest is history. And since then, just because, I'll let you pick it up from there, Don. But I just been growing back office wise, more and more responsibility as the time went on. And just things have been amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I met James. I was there. I had done the Rift, so I'd done my first comic, and I really loved it. And I was also in the film business, and I just saw the connection. I mean, I saw how my comic, how much better it was creatively for me as a writer, but also the advantages as a producer to have this thing that people could look at that was visual that they could read. So I wanted to get more into it, and we were taking meetings with different comic publishing companies, and Scout was one of them. And I met James and Jim, and I don't know if Brendan was there. Was Brendan there? I think it was just you and Jim, right?
It was just Jim and I, yep.
And, we were just, I had the people that work with me there as well. And during the course of the meeting, he talked about this idea he had, and I just loved it. I mean, I grew up as a latchkey kid in the 80s in the mall. And, the mall was like where I had my first kiss, my first job, my first crime. I mean, everything about it was just right in line with what I loved. And so we started working together and started writing together. And because of that, we were on the phone almost every day. So we became friends. And James would tell me something he was going to do with Scout, like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And a lot of it, to be honest with you, I was like, okay, dude, go for it. It's like, and everything he said, like, came true, like he did. And I just watched him and I was just like, man, this guy really knows what he's doing. And it made me really interested in just that side of it. And when I had the opportunity to meet the other partners and they felt like there was some synergy because I live on the West Coast and also a creator. I had books that I was bringing to Scout that were getting optioned, and it just became synergistic for me to actually join the company. And it's been great. I love working at Scout. I love being able to give other voices a platform and bring other people into the comic business. And just, to help it grow with this amazing team of guys has been really rewarding.
Yeah, it is really cool to just watch because I know we were talking off camera. One of the things that got me into Scout, I had Charlie Stickney on my show where he was talking about White Ash, and through kind of trying to catch up on some of those back issues, I went to the Scout's website and I saw they had the subscription box, and I tested it out the first time. And there are so many great stories that I feel like Scout is just putting out a lot of great books right now. And I think that's what attracted me to your guys' book that you guys worked on together, The Mall. Like there's just, I was reading so much new stuff that were coming out, and I was like, what did I miss, in the past 6 months, 7 months, or whatever it is? And someone was like, you've got to read The Mall. And so I checked it out and I was hooked. So rather than me talk about it, because I can talk about it and I'll probably butcher it, I got you guys who created it. Tell the people what is The Mall about? If they've never heard of it, they've never read it, what's it about?
Well, we were kind of inspired by, John Hughes movies and sort of the mob movies of the 80s. So imagine the princess, the quarterback, and the geek from a John Hughes movie all find out they're related when a low-level Florida mob boss dies and leaves them each a store in the local mall that they find out is secretly a front for the mafia. So they have this kind of dysfunctional family that has to come together, and are they going to, while they're navigating all the John Hughesian sort of high school drama, they have to decide whether they're going to break bad or go legit, So it's like getting a date for the prom is one thing, but doing it while the Colombian mafia is after you is an entirely different story. So that's the basic premise. I mean, really what was important to us and what we had a lot of conversations about was what made John Hughes movies so great was that he never overshadowed the kid problems with the sort of plot problems. Like you had an entire movie that was just about they forgot my birthday or whatever. So we really tried to make sure that in every issue of The Mall, the teenage problems were never overshadowed by the mafia problems. Even though the mafia problems were like drug dealing and assassins and whatever, we always wanted to try to elevate the teenage problems almost over those mafia problems, which is something we try to do to keep it grounded and kind of fun.
No, I had an absolute blast working with Don. I mean, the concepts, like just the brainstorming sessions that we had were a lot of fun, man. What I was saying is that season 2, I can't wait to get into it. And, you know, the hardest part of, I think, from a writing standpoint is establishing all those characters. We've done that now, and it's going to be really fun going into season 2, writing these characters and just even adding more depth to them. I get excited. That's how it was with Solar Flare, where it just becomes a lot easier, I think, from a writing point of view, once you have things established.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny that you both were talking about it. Like, I want nothing more than to be in that room to hear, like, where did the concept of this idea of, because you're talking about 2 beloved genres, right? The John Hughes movies, but then also like the Colombian gangster, you know, like you have those aspects. And where did the idea to merge those 2 into a story come about?
Oh, I can tell you exactly where that came from. So, again, like Don said earlier about the mall is near and dear to me as well. It's the best. We used to go there every weekend during my childhood. It would seem like every weekend. But in my mall in Fort Myers, where the story takes place, we have a mall called the Edison Mall, and that's where it's loosely based off of. And there was a store that all they sold was organs. That's it. And I remember, I mean, I got bet by my friends to go into that store. It was always in like prime location, like the prime real estate, right across from the food court. And I always wondered how the heck they stayed in business. I tried to convince my dad to open up a comic book shop in that mall. And we found out like a really low rent. This is back in the early 90s, that the rent was like 10 grand a month back then for a place that wasn't nearly as, I don't know, foot traffic wise as right across from the food court. So I asked my dad one day, I'm like, hey, how can they afford the organ store to stay in business? And he chuckled. He's like, it's what they call front, son. And I started laughing. He started laughing. I'm like, what's a front? And he kind of explained where, you know, you take basically a legitimate business to lose money in order to write off expenses from another business. So I had a valuable lesson that was learned from my childhood, from my dad. So it really came from my dad and from that scenario. And by the way, that store is still open to this day, when so many other stores have come and gone in the mall, but that organ store is alive and kicking. So that's really where it came from, man. I always think that's a cool story.
That's awesome. So have you taken your comic book to that store yet this year?
Oh no, because I'm afraid that it's like I strike our story kind of a little too close to reality. I don't want to upset anybody. Because it very well could be mob related.
If James disappears, we know it was this podcast.
You know, yep, exactly.
Sorry guys, if he disappears, I'll remove the video.
Okay, go. Well, no, we need it for evidence, man.
Yeah,
that's right.
Or you guys should probably remove it just for your own safety.
Yeah, that's true.
Don, how was it coming into kind of like coming a part of it with it and creating this story together as a team rather than individually?
Well, it was great, man. I mean, look, I love, what I do for a living is sort of write stories and collaborate with people. And James and I established really quickly a great friendship. So we enjoyed speaking with each other. And I think, the characters just, he had some character ideas and we just like reworked some of the characters and came up with some ideas together. And, really the characters that really jumped. I mean, we love all the characters. I mean, I really fell in love with all of them, but, he already had this kind of idea for this uncle that was really kind of close to home for me, based on some of my relatives. And just, obviously I connected to, each character in a way was connected. And we also looked at some of these archetypical John Hughes characters and we're like, how do we make, what was great about John Hughes is he'd take the stereotype, like the princess, and then he'd show us that really she's not as shallow as you think. And he'd give you more of their background. And the nerd wasn't, he kind of shattered the stereotypes in a way and made you humanize them. And that's really what we wanted to do, was go into each character and find their kind of soul and what made them special and make them sympathetic. So that was all just a blast. I mean, I'm excited. I've written a lot of comics at this point, and I'm probably most excited about volume 2 of The Mall right now, going in and doing the second semester, so to speak, of this second quarter, so to speak, of this book.
Nice. Well, I was going to ask.
I have to give Don complete credit for finding our artist, Rafael Hilario.
Okay.
I don't know how he found him, but what a gem. Just such a great guy, and the talent that guy has is just unreal. To take, our ideas and put it on paper, I don't think we could have found a better artist, quite honest, for our story.
Yeah, to speak
And that's,
speak
100%
about him.
credit for you, buddy.
Well, to speak about him for a second, I mean, I got a bunch of samples, and I just he had sent me a sample that I liked, and it was really cool. Really, like, I just loved it. I thought it was really cool, and reached out to him, and he had never done a comic before. He had just done these sample pages, or like these few pages, and he was an architect who wanted to draw comic books. And so you can see his style kind of develop a little bit as the ball goes along, but we just love him. He's super talented. He's drawing a book for me right now called Unicorn that he's about halfway through, and hopefully he gets done at some point soon so we can move him back over to the mall. But he's definitely a gem and a super talented guy, and really nice guy as well. He lives in Brazil, and he's a solid dude. So
yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up the art, because I think it just ties in so well with the story that there's so many different routes you can take with the art, right? You could go, but I think with this type of story, like the route that you guys went with the style of art is just a beautiful choice. So I think it complements it really well, because if you've read comic books, you've definitely had this sometimes where you feel a disconnect from like the story and the art, like it doesn't match, or they don't complement each other well. But this is a beautiful representation of where the writing and the art complement each other very well.
Thanks, man. We both feel that way too, for sure.
Yep. Well, I was going to ask, and you guys have both brought it up a little bit, was this it for the mall, or is there more? And it sounds like you guys have at least more ideas that you guys are hoping to play with here a little bit soon. Is that correct?
James?
Yep. Oh, absolutely, man. We have quite a few ideas. We'd love to do it, like Don said earlier, kind of instead of seasons, like semesters or quarters, and just follow, these four main characters. But yeah, the plan, I don't know, is to try to get to maybe 5-6 issues, every other year is what I'm hoping. We've been, quite honestly, really busy doing back office stuff for Scout, that both of our writing careers have not necessarily been on hold, but we haven't been able to focus. That's kind of the part of our career that has kind of been put on a hiatus while we're working in the back office with Scout. Because we have a lot, as far as Scout goes, there's a lot of news that we're going to be sharing coming over the next month. A lot of amazing news, I think. Yeah, we're hoping every year and a half
Awesome.
to revisit these characters.
Yeah, and if you're watching this or listening to this and you're not following Scout on social media, like, you guys are missing out, because you guys have dropped a lot of big news the last couple weeks anyways. So definitely be following Scout online if you guys are interested in what they're doing, because you find out you guys are, like you said, you guys are growing and moving and doing some big things. But this is what's nice about this. I do think about this issue is like you're satisfied with the ending, but you want more. Okay, this is a world that you guys have created. So it's nice to hear that whatever it is, that this is hopefully a world that we're going to get to explore and play in a little bit more as readers and fans. Because especially now that you've established the groundwork, and now it just is like, I can't even imagine where you guys are going to be taking this.
We have some big surprises that we're excited about that we've already worked out. So we're definitely excited to jump back into the world.
So as we start to kind of wrap this up, since we've been talking about the mall, we've been talking about John Hughes and kind of the gangster. Is there a John Hughes movie that tops it for you guys, or a gangster movie from the 80s like that kind of tops it for you?
I know what Don's answer is going to be. Go ahead, Don. What's your favorite 80s movie?
My favorite's probably Some Kind of Wonderful, which is sort of the redux.
I thought it was going to be Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh, well, that's good. That's not John Hughes, though. I love that movie.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. That's not John. I mean, 80s movies, I definitely love Can't Buy Me Love, but I love Some Kind of Wonderful. I think that's a beautiful film. It's also directed by Howie Deutsch, who is a Buckeye, as am I. So that's obviously an influence. But that to me is I think just such a beautiful film, and just such a, and just the ending of that movie is just so good. I mean, obviously The Breakfast Club, is a classic. I mean, it's hard to pick. And I watched all those movies with my kids, and my kids are 9 and 12, and they hold up, man. My kids love them. my kids respond just as well as I did when I was their age watching those movies. So it's kind of fun.
What about you, James?
Gosh, my favorite John Hughes, probably Breakfast Club. I mean, I'm such a big fan of the Breakfast Club, and Ferris Bueller was amazing as well. Just so many good ones. And of course, the gangster movie wise, Scarface, Goodfellas, so many different ones. And I'm sure you noticed with our our philosophy, we did, a homage cover to popular 80s movies for the regular covers. And then we did like the gangster 80s movies for, the variant ones. So we had some really cool ones. The only one I wish that we would have done that we never did was the Goonies. That's the one that got away.
Season 2, man.
We weren't able to, season 2, exactly. So we're going to try to get that one for like a incentive for season 2.
As people are trying to find, just they're hearing this, they're intrigued by them all. What for both of you, what are some other things that you guys have that are out that people can check out that you would say, hey, this is something we'd like you guys to look at or get into? Is there anything that you guys have that kind of you want to point people towards?
Yeah, I mean, I have another series called The Source. It's also published by Scout Comics. I have a series called The Dark Age that was published by Red 5 that we're finishing the last issue now. And I also have The Rift, which is the first 2 issues of that were made into the last episode of the Amazing Stories reboot, but there's 2 other issues that are almost like 2 different episodes to show you where the series itself would go. But yeah, those are probably where I'd point people next for me.
Nice.
And for me, I have 2 other series, Solar Flare, which we just finished season 3, both published, and then also Long Live Pro Wrestling, which we're about to start season 1 for that. All of my stuff is currently published by Scout, probably will be for the foreseeable future. Needless to say, I'm a homer. But my next title that I'm working on is called Third Wave 99. That's going to be released in the spring. And the 99 represents the year that it's in, 1999. And it's kind of like a Karate Kid or Cobra Kai meets Point Break. Yeah, a lot of, and again, you can get all of that stuff at scoutcomics.com, including Don's The Source, which, by the way, is one of my favorite books, too. The first 2, I think issue 2, Don, is my favorite issue out of the 4. I just love it. Everything fires on all cylinders for it. But The Source is like Harry Potter meets The Matrix. Magic is real and been outlawed, and there's like a yin and a yang. It's just it's a great story. And it was you and Joshua Malkin. Joshua's a great guy as well. But the art there, Leno, is it Caravello is the artist?
Yeah,
another great find.
Yeah,
Carvello.
Another Brazilian guy. Yeah, really talented.
Yeah.
He did The Rift for me as well.
He did The Rift. Yep.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And the Dark Age. Who does our Dark Age? Did Leno pick that up or no?
No, that was an artist named Leo Rodriguez. And actually the last issue is being drawn by Popman, who's or Popman.
Oh, really? That's awesome, dude.
Does a lot of Aquaman, Shazam, and stuff like that. He actually went to high school right next to me, and we've become friends. And he's actually, Pop, if you're watching this, you need to hurry up and finish issue 7. You're taking too long. He's awesome, and he's become a friend and super talented guy. And I hope to do more with Pop. We're gonna maybe create some stuff together in the future. So.
And you forgot to mention Loot and Unicorn, by the way, Don.
Yeah, I have 2 books that are coming out that are sort of more for the YA space or kids and teen space. One is called Loot, that is drawn by Kari Lynn Smith, who's amazing, and Unicorn, that's Hafiel, who did The Mall. Both of those are coming out next year. Both of them have already been optioned for film and television. One of them's already been announced. Unicorn's being directed by Debbie Berman, who was the editor of Black Panther, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man. And Loot has been picked up by a streamer for development into a series, but we have not announced it yet.
Okay. Very cool. Wow, that's
cool.
That's awesome. So, and are those both Scout, or are they different?
Those are both Scout, but they're going to be published under sub-labels for Scout. One is going to be published under Scoot, which is a kids and teen label, and one is going to be published under Lit, which is a more of a young adult, little older than a kids and teen.
So You guys hear it first. If you guys are in the comics, check out Scout's website and get on those right now whenever they do come out. That's exciting. Thank you guys at both again so much for just taking the time to just talk about comics.
Cool, man.
Where can people find you, follow you to kind of just see what you guys are both doing so they can stay kind of connected?
Don, you want to take oh, well, I'm at James Haick on Twitter. I pretty much run the Facebook page for Scout. So just contact us there. And yeah, just scoutcomics.com for me. And I know I think Don's on Twitter as well at Don Handfield.
Yeah, I think it's at Don Handfield. I also have, at Don Handfield, I think I also have at Donnie Inc., INK. And I have a production company website, motorbuilt.com, that has info about all the film and TV stuff. And people can get me on there as well. And we also have something that we launched in conjunction with Scout, which is a contest for writers. If they have a screenplay or a comic book script, they can enter it in the contest. The deadline's on October 15th. And the winner will get two winners. One will get a comic book and one will get a series published by Scout Comics and developed option for TV and film. The information for that you can find at script2comic.com, which is script and then number 2comic.com. About 2 weeks till the deadline. So if any comic creators out there who have always wanted to make a comic, or TV and film writers who've always wanted to have their own film, have their story made into a comic, it's a great sort of vehicle for that, and would welcome people to enter before the deadline.
Awesome. Again, that's so cool. If you're watching or listening, all the links, everything they've said will be in the description of the YouTube video or the podcast details. So make sure you guys click those, look it up, figure out, see what works for you all. But definitely check it out. Again, thank you, Don. Thank you, James, both for just taking some time to talk comics. I know you guys are extremely busy people, so it means a lot that you guys do.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man. I really appreciate what you do, man. It's important to get the word out for comic creators and stuff. So I really appreciate what you do. Thanks again for having us. And, let us know if you want any other Scout creators or other people to talk to.
Absolutely, will do. So as we wrap up, hopefully you guys can all find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Take care.